is with an intent that the majority of you folks are going to be deciding these various questions. And for those of you who have not maybe been involved in this kind of an environment, usually that's accomplished by motions being made of one sort or another to support or oppose different propositions, the resolutions that will be before you. If a resolution or a motion is coming out of a committee of more than one, like a bylaws committee or some other thing, then it has to be moved. It does not have to be seconded. So don't feel the need to go and make a second if it comes out of a committee, because by definition, two people would have been involved in it. But the way a normal motion is made is, if you want to make a motion, you would have to stand up. You should be recognized by your president, the chair of your meeting. She would recognize you. You would make your motion. I'm not sure whether your bylaws require you to identify yourself in your chapter or who you're representing or not, but you would make your motion. And your name will go into the minutes of the meeting to identify you as having made that motion. It would then have to be seconded. Now, the seconder does not have to be in support of the motion. The seconder simply has to want the thing to be considered and decided one way or another. And so there will be a motion made here on the various issues. It'll have to be seconded, and then debate starts. Now, your president and how she's going to handle the debate on some of these resolutions and motions is going to be it's up to her. Commonly, it's done by a pro-con. Someone who is in favor of a motion gets to speak first, and then someone, or certainly the maker, would have a right to speak first, but then someone in favor, and then someone who is against the motion. And through that back and forth process, the issue is refined and information theoretically is brought forward so that everyone can have the best available information on which to cast their vote. Pretty much how it works. When you vote, do you vote by clicker things? Do you have little gadgets or show of hands? You have cards, right? Okay, so you have cards, so you'll be voting your various, how many votes you have. And that'll all be added up, and everything will be moving up just like that. Exactly. So the whole idea of this process is to make sure that in a very decorous, and you're all professionals, we're all professionals, that there's no name calling, you don't, this kind of stuff. Everyone should stay calm and collected. But the goal is to share the information that everyone will need in order to make an informed decision for the betterment of your organization. So that's kind of where we are right now. Does anyone have any questions about anything? Not at all. Claire is a bell, or not? I see movement. Ma'am. Okay. Robert's rule says you get to speak one time. There's going to be a standing rule that's going to be adopted that limits 3 minutes per speaker. 3 minutes per speaker. And then when everyone who has wanted to speak has spoken, then a speaker can speak a second time. But that's after everyone else who wants to speak has spoken, if that helps. The old-time Roberts rules had a default setting of a person could speak for 10 minutes. I'm not sure how many of you want to hear anybody talk for 10 minutes. So nowadays, it's very common to have a standing rule for some maybe more moderate amount of time. So I believe the intention is for 3 minutes per speaker. And then after everyone else has spoken, then that person can speak again if there's something else to be added to the discussion. Okay? So I guess things are going to be starting here fairly soon. I'm not sure if there was anything else that... now, I know that I see a microphone there and there, which is great. I suspect it might be that your president, for these various issues, she may want the people in favor to speak on one side and speak the people who are in opposition to line up on the other side. So you'd have like a pro line and a con line, and she can kind of go back and forth to kind of keep balance to the two sides of the discussion. So that's something that might be happening. If you are a delegate, if you could move up to one of the first 3 rows here, I think it's where the blue, where that blue roping is, so you can kind of distinguish yourselves. I think is what the idea is. Of course, if you're settled in and you refuse to move, then that's okay too, I guess.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My apologies because I gave out some bum advice to a couple of the delegates. We would like delegates from the same chapter to sit together. So, I'm sorry? No, I mean, it's okay. Let's just make sure the chapters are sitting together, please.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to call the meeting to order. I'm Claire Regan, National SPJ President. I'd like to just introduce our guests on the stage here. So we have Vice President Ashanti Blaze Hopkins, and we have our parliamentarian. He's a professional registered parliamentarian from the National Association of Parliamentarians, and his name is Bob Dutzman. He'll be here for the duration of the meeting. Welcome, Bob and Ashanti. Thank you, yes. I'm going to review the order of business before I proceed to the next item. So we will proceed with a year in review, very brief, then recognition of Brittany Haler, then an explanation of voting procedures, then election results, approval of business meeting minutes, convention bylaws information, convention resolutions information, new business, announcements, adjournment. Okay. Are there any changes to this agenda? Okay, there being none, we'll consider the agenda accepted and move on. Okay. Okay, brief year in review from my presidential perspective. I'm going to keep it brief because hopefully you can attend the President's Banquet later on tonight, and I'll be giving a little bit more of an elaborate report on the last year. Of course, this term, our board was consumed with budget crisis, and we took the first half of our term to just sort of assess the situation and understand the scope of it. The second half of our term has been spent working hard to sort of come to terms with plans, ideas, and solutions, and ideas from our members. So working hard on that, I assure you. Then we've had some successes, of course. One of our successes was the support that we gave to the Marion County Record in Kansas when the newsroom was raided by law enforcement on August 11. The society, well, first I could mention that there were laptops and drives, hard drives were taken away, and they weren't able to publish. So the society sprang into action by joining a coalition of news organizations led by the Reporters Committee for Freedom of the Press, and we didn't stop there. The board met in an emergency meeting to unanimously vote to make available $20,000 from SPJ's Legal Defense Fund to help the Record as they defended their First Amendment rights. Yes, congratulations to the society for this bold move, which, I mean, this is what SPJ does best. And we were recognized for it in lots of press coverage. So be assured that we are still regarded as the voice of journalists in this country. So thank you to the board for approving that unanimously and for the efforts that were made to defend the newspaper. We also completed a code of conduct, participatory standards. You will hear more about that later. But that was a big project, a lot of work from a committee with a lot of robust conversation and debate. And you'll see the fruits of their work later on in this meeting. And I think I will just summarize it with that and move on, and you'll hear my fuller report later on. Okay. To begin this meeting, I'd like to start with some good news. SPJ had something outstanding to celebrate in August. What we believe to be the first suit ever by a journalist to challenge gag rules in a public agency was filed. Investigative journalist Brittany Haler is suing the Allegheny County Jail in Pittsburgh for its policies banning staff and contractors from speaking to the media or others about the jail without approval. The suit alleges the jail has these restrictions even while it has had a higher than average death rate. Make no mistake, SPJ's work was foundational to this. We reached out to a number of groups 3 years ago about the gag rules, sometimes called censorship by PIO. Yale Law School Media Freedom and Information Access Clinic picked up on it and started a search for the right case. Our own Frank Lamonti had written the legal background that is the pathway for the case. Reporters Committee for Freedom of the Press joined as co-counsel. Ms. Haler told us she and others had gone through much confusion about these gag orders, asking themselves questions such as, can they do this? Why? Then she said, someone put me in touch with SPJ, and suddenly the adult was in the room. We congratulate Brittany Haler, director of the Pittsburgh Institute for Nonprofit Journalism, for her courage in taking on the authorities. We'd like to hear from journalists interested in related action. Let's give Brittany a round of applause. She's not with us here at the conference. And Catherine Foxhall has passed along this good news to us. Thank you to Catherine. All right, next on our agenda is an explanation of voting procedures. I'd like to call our parliamentarian, Bob Dutzman, to the podium, who will explain them.
I can do this. A copy of the standing rules of the convention is located in the delegate information sheet, which you were provided with. Hopefully you all have that. Each chapter has been awarded 1 vote for every 50 members or fraction thereof. Each region has been awarded 1 vote for every 50 unaffiliated members or fraction thereof. Each delegate has been given a voting card or cards with the number of votes assigned to that specific delegate by his or her chapter. Delegates may not, I repeat, may not vote by proxy. Accredited alternate delegates may vote in the absence of the accredited delegate, but may only vote the same number of votes as the original delegate. Members of chapter delegations must sit together, and during the voting procedure, only voting delegates or alternates replacing voting delegates will be permitted in the delegate section of the hall, which is up front here. That section is in front of the stanchions. No delegates will be permitted to enter the delegate section after the start of a voting count, whether by card, roll call, or ballot. Anyone leaving the section after the count begins will not be permitted to return until voting on the issue is complete and announced as final. If necessary, the vote count will be taken by the Sergeant at Arms, Erwin Gratz, and his assigned vote counters. I think there are 4 of them that will be assisting. On each vote, accredited delegates should hold up their voting cards. If a delegate wishes to split his or her vote, he or she must go to the microphone at the start of the vote. Again, delegates who split votes may not vote from their seats. You must go to the microphone at the start of the vote to announce your what you're going to do. If voting is by ballot, you will receive the ballots equal to the number of votes on your delegate card. Again, you will not be permitted to vote if you leave the room during the count, unless you have transferred your vote card to your accredited alternate delegate. As a reminder, delegates have the option to send an issue to the membership as a binding referendum at any time. Are there any questions? Okay, thank you very much, Madam President.
Okay, before we get to the resolutions and business, I'd like to report the results for election of National Board of Directors. Because there is a bylaws amendment before the delegates that would change the time frame of elected officials' terms, we will be swearing in these candidates later. Our newly elected board members are President Ashanti Blaze Hopkins, Vice President Emily Block with 408 votes, Nicole Prano with 291 votes. That means Emily Block is your new Vice President. Secretary Treasurer Daniela Ibarra with 390 votes, Michael Koretsky with 310 votes. That means Daniela Ibarra is your new Secretary Treasurer. Director at Large, 2-year term. 4 candidates. Nicole DeCrisio, 308 votes. Joanna Hernandez, 232 votes. Chris Vaccaro, 345 votes. Wesley Wright, 371 votes. This means Wesley Wright and Chris Vaccaro are your new 2-year term directors at large. Region 2 coordinator, Stephanie Overman with 102 votes. Region 3 coordinator, Michael Koretsky with 37 votes. Sal Morales with 20 votes. Rafael Almeida with 33 votes. That means Michael Koretsky is the Region 3 coordinator. Region 6 coordinator, Joe Radsky with 15 votes. Yes, only one candidate for that position. Region 7 coordinator, Loretta McGraw with 11 votes, one candidate only for that region. Region 8 coordinator, 2 candidates, Melissa Nage with 4 votes, Laura Garcia with 41 votes. So Laura Garcia is the Region 8 coordinator. Region 10 coordinator, 1 candidate, Donald Myers with 27 votes. Region 11 coordinator, Ankita Kumar with 77 votes. Congratulations. Region 12 coordinator, Jennifer Ellis with 30 votes. Okay, yes, here's a summary. This means Stephanie Overman, Michael Koretsky, Joe Radsky, Loretta McGraw, Laura Garcia, Donald Myers, Ankita Kumar, and Jennifer Ellis are your new regional coordinators. Congratulations to all. The election was conducted electronically by secret ballot, reported by SPJ staff, and verified by the Sergeant at Arms, Erwin Gratz. Total number of voters was 715. Moving on to the approval of the business meeting minutes. It is now time to approve the meeting minutes from the last time the delegates convened at our annual convention in 2022 in Washington, D.C. You will see them on the screen and can access them in the SPJ23 app. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes? Lauren Bartlett? Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second, Michael Drudge, 71 year old pro chapter.
Thank you, Michael Drudge. Is there a discussion? Okay, there being no discussion, it's time to vote. Excuse me 1 minute. Not necessary, okay. Okay, all those in favor of the motion to approve the minutes, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, please say no. Okay, the minutes are approved. Thank you. Convention bylaws information. We will now address the proposed bylaws amendments. There are 3 amendments we will consider, and we will address them in order. First is replacing the delegate system with referendums, such as 1 member, 1 vote. The second is proposed changes to term periods for SPJ's national officers. The third is participatory standards at Society of Professional Journalists events. Therefore, do I have a motion so that we may start discussion for the amendment on replacing the delegate system with referendums, also known as one member, one vote? Okay. Can you state your name for everybody? Thank you. So do we have a second? Thank you. Okay. We are ready for discussion. Okay. Where is Adam Sennett? Okay. Bylaws Chair Adam Sennett is making notations as we discuss. Editing in real time. Okay, time for discussion. People are stepping forward. We have 2 microphones. Oh, hold on one second. Okay. Okay, so we're going to place a limit on the discussion with each person's input at 3 minutes. And Vice President Ashanti Blaze Hopkins will keep time and let us know when we get close to the 3 minutes. You'll give us a heads up when we're close. Okay. And it would be good to go pro and con, in favor or not in favor. We'll go back and forth. So who do we have an in favor? We'll start with a pro. Okay. And please identify yourself and your chapter or community.
My name is Denise Clay Murray. I am representing the Keystone Pro chapter, which covers the bottom half of Pennsylvania, the good half. And the folks from the Keystone Pro chapter asked me to come here and to vote yes on this proposal. And the fact that I am actually very much in favor of it is just a bonus. I don't understand how you can have an organization that is a membership organization where people are expected to pay dues and to participate, and they don't get a vote. They have to have representatives vote for them. That's a little undemocratic to me. And for a journalism organization to practice something undemocratic is it's wrong. So I'm hoping that this actually passes this time around, because I understand this is not the first time you all have discussed this. I'm relatively new to SPJ, and this is my first convention. But when I heard about this, I'm like, well, of course you should have one person, one vote, because that just makes sense. So hopefully, we'll actually be able to make some sense here and allow people who pay their dues and participate to actually have a more complete say in how the organization is run.
Okay, thank you very much. Do we have a con or opposed? Okay, can you state your name and your chapter or community?
Or in my case, region.
Okay,
Lauren Bartlett, Region 11. And I'm standing here because I wanted to urge delegates to oppose this and vote against it. The proposed amendments would consolidate too much power in the national board, remove checks and balances that are really needed in our governance. Under these proposed bylaws changes, members really would only have an up or down vote, and we would lose the ability to have a voice in everything that's important to us, whether it's updating the code of ethics or proposing future bylaws changes. Our current system allows for all of members to have input. It's not a perfect system. We can make some small changes to make it better, but what's proposed is not going to, would take away people's voices. I just wanted to add one other thing in response to what was brought up before, because this is not a new proposal, the concept of representative democracy. The delegates serve as a representative democracy, representing chapters and communities and unaffiliated members in the way that Congress, a state legislature, represents the voters of their districts. So it is representation, and all members have a say in the current form of government.
Okay, thank you. Pro or con?
Pro.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes.
And please introduce yourself first.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Peter Seke. I'm from the New York Deadline Club. Madam Chair, you know, the issue here is that democracy is not perfect, and nothing we do here is going to make it perfect. But the system that we have now is really severely flawed. It's actually not representative democracy. When you consider, how did we get here? Those of you who are delegates of chapters, were there elections among your members? Those of you who are regional delegates, how did you get here? In some cases, you signed up. In some cases, I don't think there are any contested elections, but you signed up. And I know in my chapter, and we're the biggest one, we had a board meeting and we just discussed it. We picked our delegates, but not in an election. It was just uncontested. But that's not the worst of it. The worst of it is that most chapters aren't here. They can't be here. We have roughly 191 chapters. 110 of them aren't in good standing, mostly because their leaders did not file an annual report. That right there, that disenfranchises all of the members of those chapters. What's more, of the 81 chapters that are in good standing, only 38 of them are here. So the rest of them couldn't afford it. So what we really have here is we have an elite group of people who could afford it, people who could take time out of work, and these people presume to represent all 4,200 of our members, and it's just not the case. So we have a seriously flawed system. We have a replacement for it. The replacement would allow for bylaws changes. And by the way, our bylaws are like a constitution. You don't change your constitution easily, and you don't do it often. And it should be a little hard to do it. So we have a method for doing that under the new system would be done as it is now. It would be created in the bylaws committee. You would have, or from members, you would have a 45-day comment period. The board would move it to ratification of the members. And if the board didn't move it, you'd have a method of making the board move it. So bylaws changes would be done in that way. And it would take away what we're doing here. What we love to do is to, I urge you to vote in favor of this.
Thank you. Pro or con?
Con.
Con, okay, we'll go with you, please. And can you then introduce yourself, please?
Al Cross, delegate from the Bluegrass chapter and former national president. Yes, we do have a flawed system. All systems are flawed. But the proposal here would make it even more flawed, because I've been to a lot of these conventions and I've dealt with a lot of resolutions and bylaws proposals, was chairman of the resolutions committee. In order for an organization to effectively state its positions, there has to be meaningful deliberation between the members. That meaningful deliberation will not take place under this proposal. You need people in the same place at the same time, negotiating, just like legislatures and Congress do. That's called representative democracy. One of the earlier speakers said that They have to have representatives vote for them. That's a little undemocratic to me. Well, not really. Not in a democratic republic. You know, we can't govern ourselves exactly like the states and the federal government do, but we're essentially following the principles of a democratic republic. You elect representatives who then gather together, dicker, negotiate, and come up with a consensus. That's what the convention is about, and that's why it should be preserved as it is.
All right, thank you. Next, please introduce yourself, pro or con.
Hi, I'm Pro. I am Brendan O'Reilly. I'm the president of the Press Club of Long Island, the professional chapter for Long Island, New York. I was on the delegate analysis task force that looked into the delegate system after the fiasco. That was 2021. That was my first time at a convention as a delegate, and I was really grossed out by the more I learned about the delegate system. Somebody can correct me later if I'm wrong, but I believe it was just 3 people who were elected by no one, locked up 20 delegate votes for themselves. And of those 3 people, each of them lived in an area served by a chapter, but for some reason they were there pretending to be representing their unaffiliated members in those regions. At least 2 of them were former board members. If you were a board president in a chapter and then you quit your board just so you could be a regional delegate and cast 10 votes, that's an abuse of the system. This system does not prevent these kinds of abuses. I went into that committee thinking, all right, we could fix this delegate system. I'm sure people like it, and we'll tinker with it and we'll get it down to something that's more fair. I found out everybody hated it. We had 7 people on our committee. We voted 6-1 to abolish it. We had hearings. We studied every other journalism organization that is like us. None of them have a delegate system. None. Why are we the one group of people that do this? There was also discussion about giving the communities votes the same way the chapters get votes. Well, what would be the most fair thing to do to make sure that people who are members of the freelance committee or the LGBTQ community have equal say to somebody who's in a chapter, or to have equal say to somebody who's in a region and doesn't belong to a chapter or a community? 1 member, 1 vote. That's why we recommended this. It makes the most sense. It is the most fair thing. It is a great incentive to renew your membership on time every year. We need people to renew. It's a great way to remind people to renew. You don't get to vote unless you renew. And I also found it was classist, the delegate system. I also found it was ableist, the delegate system. I found that it discriminated against people who have to work and can't afford to take time off. I found it discriminated against people who have kids, especially if you're a single parent. There's no way you could come be a delegate. And like Peter said, I want to echo everything he said. If your chapter does not file an annual report, you have no representation. So if your chapter is not in good standing, if your chapter is dysfunctional and you still want to have a say in SPJ business, you should have a vote. Your vote should not depend on whether your chapter files that report or not. Let's give everybody a vote. And if you just gauge the feedback, the younger people in SPJ, I've noticed, have supported this overwhelmingly. And we need to be looking to the younger people if we want SPJ to survive. And we need to be catering to the younger people if we want SPJ to survive. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. We'll go over here. Are you pro or con? And please introduce yourself.
Neither. A point of clarification.
Okay. Can you introduce? Thank you.
Tom Johnson from the Rio Grande
Thank you.
chapter. We have different strata of membership: students, professionals, retired, and do we still have lifetime? I think so. Do I conclude that all of those categories will be included under the definition of a member?
The answer is yes, but I'm just conferring the parliamentarian. Hold on 1 second. To answer the question, I'm going to call up Adam Sennett, Bylaws Committee Chair. Adam? Where is Adam? There you are. Taking a long way. Thank you.
So the short answer is yes, but currently associate members are not counted right now as members for accounting for delegate votes. So if you're a student, you would be. If you're a full-time member, you would be. I believe retired members are as well. So I hope that answers your question. Did you guys hear me?
Okay. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, Madam President. Rebecca Aguilar. I am I guess a regional delegate for Region 8. So here's the thing. This is 2023. We need to get out of 1923. It's important. I follow the other people. I am for changing the system to one member, one vote, or one vote, one member, because it's time to get with today. No other journalism organization has this system. I'd like each member to have their own voice, their own vote. As a Latina woman of color, as a woman, yes. You know how much I've fought to have my own voice? So if I pay $78, I think that's what it is, right? I should have my own voice. Each and every one of you should have your own voice. It's important. It's misinformation when it says that the national board will get more power. That's not true. We voted them in, we can vote them out. You have the power as your vote. That is misinformation. I can't wait to see someone under the age of 25 to go and that other microphone against this. I keep seeing people my age, 65 or older, right? Let's change it. Let's get with today. Let's show all the other organizations that we welcome you, that we do not have the system of haves and have-nots. I remember the first time I stood in front of a bunch of delegates fighting against the use of the word illegal aliens. It was a sea of white people. Good, I'm glad to see people of color, a few here and there. But we need to change it. There's nothing to fear. Don't let any of these people put that fear and doubt in you. You know, I come from a family of and let me know when I have 30 seconds, please. I've come from a family of union leaders, migrant rights activists. My father fought for Black people and women to get into General Motors. And there was always the people, can they put a little screw in a motor? Oh, yes, they can. My mother fought for migrants to have water, to have a restroom out in the fields, because the white farmers thought, can't they just pee over there? Because white people and certain people of a certain age put fear in their hearts. And so I tell all of you, have your own voice, because what I love, and I've said this before, thank you. I'm a former TV person, so I go by seconds. That, as I said when you guys made me the first Latina woman of color as a president, is that I love that this organization, yeah, maybe you're 85% white, but you are of today. You said, for me and Ashanti, it is time. It is time to change this system, people. It is time. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you. Just keeping track of pro and con. Is there a con? Are you a con? Okay, we'll go. Please introduce yourself.
I'm Kevin Smith. I am a current member of the National Board and former president, and I rise in opposition to this as I did last year. I'm going to talk about three things that I think you should be aware of before you decide to make a vote. First of all, the idea that giving every single person in this organization a vote is a great idea. It's absolutely a great idea, and I think that at some point we will get to that. But let me just show you what the numbers are. And it proves out year after year after year. You want representation. You're not going to one person, one vote. 715 people out of 4,100 voted today for the officers and the leadership of this organization. Traditionally, every year, those numbers are around 10% of our members take the time to vote. Today it was 17, which is one of the highest numbers I've ever seen. Consequently, you have narrowed the opportunity for roughly 90% of the people don't even take the time to vote here, right? Under representative, 90 93 delegates here represent around 33%. So you're trading in 33% of the voice of this organization for typically 10% when you go this way. Second of all, there is in our current bylaws, this convention as delegates can hold the treasurer and the board responsible directly from the floor of this convention for financial issues. Given the situation that we have been in for the past year, and given the concerns that many of you have regarding transparency, and then there is a resolution in here to open up transparency, and also a resolution that would require the board to be more diligent about reporting their finances and making that all the members aware of that. If you do away with the delegate system, you have effectively eliminated the voice of the people from the floor of this convention to challenge the board and force more information to you by way of the finances. Lastly, and this is the part that really aggravates me, we had a knockdown, drag-out fight last year over this, and it was ugly and it was not needed. I said to a number of different people, both sides of this organization, both sides in opposition, need to get together and they need to reach a compromise. I am not against one person, one vote. I am against one person, one vote completely eliminating the delegate system. We can reach a compromise. I was told that
Okay, thank you. A pro or con?
Pro.
Okay, and can please introduce yourself?
Michael Puente, Vice President with Chicago Headline Club and incoming president for next year. We're rising, in favor of this because we do feel that every member should have a voice. That's what we want. We want more transparency. We want more, giving incentive for people wanting to join SPJ and also, renewing their membership. But my reasoning for getting up here isn't solely just to say that. It's also to the other gentleman that just spoke, that last year there was a lot of ugliness here. I wasn't here arguing, or sort of the controversy over this. We need to come together as an organization for the betterment of journalism. And whatever way this goes, I hope those who oppose this we don't look upon them as enemies. We're all part of this organization. We want to be the strongest organization there is to better serve journalism. We need to be the example that we can come together, work together, and be together. So we're in favor of it. Thank you.
Okay, that was pro. Do we have a con?
I'm opposed.
Okay, can you please introduce yourself?
Hello, everyone. Jenny McCabe, Region 4, Cincinnati, Pro Chapter President. And I just wanted to urge delegates to oppose this. Lauren and Kevin did articulate the primary points very well. I just wanted to make a couple notes or additions to that. I do feel like there was a lot of contention last year at the convention. And one of my main concerns is that due diligence wasn't done in coming up with this by the bylaws committee. And the other note I wanted to make is the delegate system has served the society well for many years. And to Kevin's point, there wasn't really, after we had the discussion last year, there weren't any meet in the middle conversations. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Do we have a pro or a con?
Pro.
Okay. Oh,
I'll yield.
you're pro? You can go.
Okay.
Please
Good
introduce-
afternoon.
Thank you.
I'm Melanie Burney, Vice President of the New Jersey chapter. I rise in support of this recommendation to change the bylaws. The New Jersey chapter wholeheartedly supports this motion. We believe that now is the time for one member, one vote. And although I am a relatively new member, it seems clear that this organization is at a crossroads, and now is the time for change. And you know, there's a saying, if you keep doing what you've always done, you're going to get what you always get. And given all that's going on in the organization, it just seems like now is the time to try a different approach to encourage members to be involved. This room should be packed. And I believe that one member, one vote will empower members, give them an incentive. And lastly, given all that's going on in the industry, do we want to continue fighting the same issue year after year? Last year was enough for me. Last year was more than enough. We have real issues facing this organization and the industry, and we need to focus on that and stop fighting about the bylaws and start fighting for a better industry. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, pro or con?
Yeah, so I am for the 1v1 votes.
Okay.
I am Loretta McGraw. I am the Region 7 coordinator and a region delegate. I just want to say that as a member of our youth, I'm speaking out for us to vote as a 1v1 party because it is so important for our voices to be heard. I was a new member just a few years ago as a part of the SLI Institute, and I never felt heard before I had the opportunity to be in person. For a lot of people, that is not a reality that they have. They can't afford to come here. We can see by the attendance this year alone that that is not a possibility. And not only is it ableist, as many people have said, it is discriminating against a lot of individuals who would like to be here today, who would like to support the society and who want to see change and they want to see SPJ thrive. You know, we are the future of SPJ, not just the youth. I'm not to say that those who have been with SPJ aren't important for the long term, but in 30 years, we have to think about who is going to be here to represent the body of SPJ. And so the 1v vote, I urge you all to really, truly consider it and make a decision based on how we as a democracy should be.
Okay, thank you. Pro or con, please?
I actually wanted to make a motion to call the question.
Okay. We have a second? Can you just identify the second? Okay, thank you. And do we get your identification? I don't know if we did. Just so
No,
we have
Danielle Ibarra, Region 8.
For the record, thank you. Okay. Hold on one second. Okay, we're ready to go to the vote. We need a two-thirds to call the question. I'm sorry.
Point of clarification.
Clarifying.
Point of clarification.
Mhm. Can you identify yourself again, please?
Alcross Bluegrass Chapter. When you call the question, that's a motion to limit debate. I would inquire the parliamentarian, what sort of limit does it put on debate? Usually it's a specified time, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Could we get an answer? You can't just summarily end debate, can you?
Oh, yes, you can.
By 2/3 vote, right?
Oh, yes, you can.
It takes
To
2/3.
move a motion, what has been done is the previous question has been moved. That is a motion made. It has to be seconded. There is no debate. The purpose of a motion moving the previous question means you want to cut off debate and get on with voting. Now, you by your vote will decide whether you stop debate to get on with the main voting on the main motion. Because you're cutting off debate, the vote will be a 2/3 vote. It'll be a show of hands. If it is successful, then debate will stop, and then you will move on to vote on the underlying motion that has been pending. Any questions? Okay. Yeah.
Please vote by card because not everybody has the same number of delegates.
If you have votes, fine, but it's because you're cutting off debate, it will be a 2/3. Requirement is a 2/3 vote of members present and voting.
Okay, delegates ready to vote? Erwin Gratz, Sergeant at Arms, will count the votes.
Point of information, please. I was not clear on what the parliamentarian said. Is it going to be the number of human beings or the number of votes that they have?
Parliamentarian says votes. Okay. All those in favor, please raise your card.
Those in favor of terminating debate so that you can move on to voting on the main motion, show of votes. Are we good? Are we still counting? Well, hell, we'll do it. We'll do it. Okay, do you, you've completed your count? You can put your cards down. Okay, as many as oppose the motion and want debate to continue, raise your cards.
Point of order. I just have a question. I'm sure it's not improper, but if you're holding up two cards, is that because they originally miscounted your number of delegates? So they gave you a second card. Okay. So you're not voting by proxy for anyone else? Okay.
Okay, the results are 59 yes to cut off the debate, 32 to continue the debate. The total is 91, so it is not 2/3, so the debate continues. Okay, pro or con?
I rise in opposition.
Okay, please introduce yourself.
My name is Nancy Cook-Lauer. I'm the Vice President of the Hawaii SPJ Pro Chapter. I appreciate, first off, I want to thank everyone who opposed the move to shut off debate. I'm glad I get my chance to speak. Hey, thank you. I just wanted to say that as a representative of a smaller state, smaller region, smaller club, that the equitable apportionment of voting power is essential to keep our small clubs alive. We need to have a voice, just like the state legislatures, the Congress, although probably not a good example right now, but eventually they'll get back to it. It apportions the power more equitably, and that's important. We're not a democracy. We're a representative republic. We have the power to vote every 2 years, in this case, every year, to get a different delegate. It's much easier when you have small representation to change the government that you don't like than it is when you have a centralized power structure. And I just hope that everyone thinks about Hawaii. Please, we're more than just a beautiful state, but we also are a small group. I've been vice president for almost 20 years in that club. We don't have a lot of people, but we have our one vote and we're proud of it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. We'll go over here. Are you a pro or con? Con, okay. Can you introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, I'm Stacy Overton Johnson. I'm the chair of the freelance community. I'm a Region 1 delegate. I live 5 hours from the closest chapter. I will never be part of a chapter, sadly. I have been. I was a former president of Houston, and I was involved in the South Florida chapter when I lived there. Brendan, I think, was talking about the misinformation that was, Rebecca was talking about the misinformation that was being shared and talked about, and just saying this is misinformation. And it got me thinking, maybe it's just miscommunication, right? Because I talk to people who don't understand the amendment nor the resolution. They don't understand what's in the amendment. They don't understand what's in the resolution. How are we possibly voting on this? We've got a handful of people who understand it. They've talked to their people on both sides of, this is why we do this. This is why we want to do this. I was the sole no vote on the delegate analysis task force last year. That was mostly because I felt like we didn't have a good debate. We didn't offer, how can we fix this? What can we do? It might surprise you to know that I'm actually not opposed to one member, one vote. You just put us all in this lumped, oh, you're all against it. Also, I'm not 65 and older. I'm not 25, but I'm a younger person, and I like the one member, one vote system. I don't like the way it's worded, and maybe I don't understand it, but I want to have the understanding. We want there to be a way for someone other than the board to propose amendments. It feels like it's too flawed of an approach. Under this proposal, the board must approve bylaws proposal in order for the membership to get to consider it. That, to me, sounds like the board, which is 9 people, am I right now? 2 of which are appointed, has all the power, and that scares me. That's it. That's all it is. It's not about trying to silence people or anything. Listen, I'm in the freelance community. We have never had a voice. We've done our own programming. We've been shut out of a convention before. We did it in the friggin' hallway. So it's not about, because we would have more of a voice, right? With a one member, one vote. So what I'm asking is, let's have 3 pro people, 3 con people, or 6 and 6 meet for the year, come up with the solution where everybody in this room can be okay with and can agree on, and we can all walk away happy. I think it's possible, but we can't go into a delegate task force with everybody wanting one member, one vote with no discussion We have to have both sides of the issue at the table talking about this. And then that's how we come to the solution on this. There's one more year.
Okay, thank you. Hello, pro or con?
I rise in opposition.
Okay, your introduction, please.
Donald Myers, Region 10 delegate. And for my bona fides, I supported one member, one vote when it came to voting for officers. But this is not the best solution here for issues with the delegates. This delegate system, flawed as it is providing more representation for the members than we would get with one member, one vote, given our voter apathy. And I believe we just need to work out a better solution. Yes, the delegate system is flawed, but this is not going to fix the problem. It will make it worse. And as far as the statement about, dysfunctional chapters that, keep members from being represented, well, I think that is the responsibility of those members to root out the dysfunction in the chapter and make it work again. I yield my time.
Okay, thank you. Pro or con?
I'm pro.
Okay, perfect. Please introduce yourself.
I'm Joanna Hernandez. I live in Florida, and I live about 7 hours from the Florida chapter. I never hear from them. And I'm here to tell you that I too have been asked how the system works. Everybody's confused about it. My former colleague, who's now at CNN, Frank Lamonte, was even confused about it. And a simple way for me to explain to him, I hold up my card. I have 3. Every one vote is representative of 50 or a percentage thereof, right? Or a fraction of that. So technically I have like 150, I have 150 votes in my hands. My background, what I want to say, this is how much power I have right now. I can vote for 150 people who I have never met. Maybe I've met some, but I haven't met all 150. Does that sound democratic? It doesn't. And let me just say something. I'm 66 years old. I am for the next generation. I'm for giving the next generation everything that we have in order for them to continue what it is that we've been doing, fighting for democracy. And I'm with them. And I really urge you to vote for one person, one vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Pro or con?
Con.
Your introduction, please.
I'm Bob Becker, and I was elected to be a Region 2 delegate. And I have communicated with my constituents about this meeting. If you pass, let's start again. Under the bylaws now, the convention has the ability to compel the Secretary Treasurer to tell us about SPJ's finances. A few weeks ago, the Florida Pro Chapter had to tell everybody about the deficit in this organization. If you pass these amendments, you will no longer have the ability to compel the Secretary Treasurer to give us that information. You will lose the ability to debate and act on resolutions promptly when they happen. In the past few years, in 2018 and 2019, the delegates came to the convention. They found out that sponsors were paying for events and other things, and they didn't like who those sponsors were. So they compelled the board to have a task force to examine that and change the policy. If you adopt these resolutions, this amendment, that will not be possible anymore. It will be almost impossible to change the bylaws unless the board agrees to do it. There is a resolution in your packet. It is the last resolution. It would keep this convention as it is, as a place to debate and do business, but it would allow everybody to vote. It would allow everybody in the room to vote. even as many members as come here, they would be allowed to vote. It would allow remote voting at the point where the board has found an economical system to provide that platform so that we can have open debates. And what I ask you to do is defeat these amendments and vote yes for the resolution. And if you do that, the amendments attached to that resolution, which only create one member, one vote, and do not impair the ability of this body to act, will come to the floor as a bylaws amendment next year. So please do that. You will get one member, one vote. I believe it will pass. Even though I oppose it, I drafted those amendments after being on the bylaws committee for over 20 years. They will, and I am convinced that they will pass next year, or the next time we have a convention. Okay? And they were presented last year, and they did not come to the floor. They were presented to the bylaws committee this year, and the bylaws committee refused to consider them. So I asked you to do that. Vote no here, wait till later, and vote yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Pro or con, please?
Pro.
Pro, and your introduction?
Hi, I'm Mary Hall. I'm the co-president of the Chicago Headline Club. So I have considered the referendum that is proposed. I've considered the amendment very carefully. And as my fellow colleague Mike Puente said, in general, our chapter has said pro. So I don't want to go too heavy into that. I just want to address something that one of the gentlemen earlier stated about the idea that based on the number of how many people voted for the board, it was like 17% versus 45%, which is represented here. I've been involved very heavily in other journalism organizations that have one member, one vote. And what happens when that exists is that everyone knows how to vote. And so you have much higher voting on things like this. And you can communicate, you have much higher investment in the conference. You have higher investment in the referendums. And so the idea that like what happened this year is going to be taken away based on this, I just don't think it's true based on my experience in other places. And like I said, I have a lot of respect for the referendum and the concern about giving the board too much financial power. Where I have landed personally, and I think our discussion, we've taken this very seriously, is that to me, the risk of giving the board too much power does not outweigh the lack of power that so many of our members continue to have every year. And I personally cannot go in, I can't wait another year to give the membership the power. Yeah, that's my time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Pro or con?
I have a point of order or
Okay.
clarification, I think, for the parliamentarian. If I am a delegate, but I'm not currently on the floor, am I still allowed to speak? I'm a delegate, but I'm not currently on the delegate floor. Am I still allowed to speak to the issue at hand? I'm happy to explain it if I'm allowed to. Yes. So I'll say this. I'm pro, and this confusion. Okay.
Parliamentarian will respond.
Thank you.
There's limitations on coming and going while a vote is being taken, but there's no vote being taken at the moment. So you're saying that they're not giving you a credential?
No, I have my credential. I was told I could not come to the floor until this vote was over. This issue was over. I never was on the floor, actually. My initial delegate, I would like to explain. I think I'm an alternate delegate. My initial delegate, who was approved weeks ago, found out when she arrived here that her membership had lapsed. And when I say arrived here, I mean to this room, to be a delegate. And so I came down to be the alternate delegate so that my approximately 50 journalists in Virginia have a single vote to represent them here.
Okay, if you're saying that you are here, you have your credential, the fact that my interpretation of what I read earlier, maybe you weren't here, but it was during a vote, because we want integrity of the vote, that you cannot come and go.
But
We're not currently voting, so as far as I'm concerned, you can be here and you can talk if you want. Is
Great.
that your answer?
Yes. Can I join the floor?
Yeah.
Okay.
You have a
Thank you.
credential, right?
I do. I
Well,
do.
that if they give you a credential, you're part of the floor.
Great. Thank you so much.
Okay, are you ready for the next pro or con?
Sure. My name is Nicole Prano. I am the Society of Professional Journalists Georgia chapter delegate. And I just would like to clarify some of what's been discussed here in debate, and that is that in the current amendment proposal, there is not a way for the membership to if the board were to vote down a bylaw proposal, there's not a way for the membership to get that passed or get it through. But there actually is a part of this amendment that does say that members of the society may petition to advance a proposal to amend these bylaws. And then it goes into a whole explanation of how that can happen. So there is a way for the membership to get their bylaw heard that is not, if the board chose not to hear it themselves. And I could go through the details and read it, but I think hopefully everybody has read through the whole thing by now. And if you don't, please pull it up or grab your paper and ask the people around you if you have questions. But I think that there is a way to do this, and what was being said was not accurate. But I'm open to, hearing that out too, if somebody else would like to get up and explain differently, or if I'm incorrect. I also just want to say that I am pro of this. I am here in representation of my less than 50 members, and I would like all of them to have a say, because I have reached out to my board members and asked them what they've thought, and tried to communicate with members who are involved with us. But we have members who may not be super active in the chapter, but are members, and I would like them to have a voice and a vote, just like the rest of us do. I would like them to have a voice and a vote, just like the even more members in our state that are not affiliated with our chapter. I would like everyone to have the same opportunity, and I really think it's that simple. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, pro or con?
I have a parliamentary inquiry, and the membership voted to extend debate, but is it unlimited debate? Aren't there provisions for a certain time period for debate on an issue? I'm asking the question. Thank you.
Can you come up?
There can be limit or extend debate can be imposed on individual speakers. It can also be imposed on an issue. There had been talk about trying to do something about this. We are now at 5, it's a 5:15. So just to say, we've got another 2 bylaw amendments and like 8 or 12 resolutions to deal with among everything else. So I know there are people who like to move it forward, but that the limitation on length of debate was not established. And so there is no limit at this point. So that's, a motion to move the previous question can again be brought after some meaningful progress in business, just to say it.
Just acknowledging the time, we'll call for these 2 more discussion points and then move on. Yeah, okay, you already spoke, so next, please introduce yourself.
Madam President, Tim Igo, Valley of the Sun, Arizona Pro Chapter. I rise in support of the resolution. First, as the outgoing nomination committee chair, I will just share my happiness to hear the breaking news tonight that 17% of people voted, a much higher number. So I want to give a shout out to the nominations committee, which did remarkable work and often doesn't get a lot of love. So I'll say that first of all. Second of all, I believe it's time to recognize that organizations like SPJ, and indeed organizations just like SPJ, have robust debate, have discussion, and make important decisions digitally in 2023. I think the dust up we just saw a moment ago is an example that we are operating under the best possible system that the 19th century has to offer. And spending time at 5:15 about has become pro forma at SPJ. So I would recommend that we adopt this, we move into